those of you tuning in, this is take 2 of the Sarah Galbraith Jeffrey collab podcast.
You know it.
Yeah.
It's hard
We've tried. We've tried once, and we lost to a audio channel turned off. We won't name anyone.
No, we won't.
Involved in that process. And we've just had some camera issues recording this one, but hey, here we are.
We're here.
It only took us 2 hours to get here, but
I
and
literally,
and the weather's absolutely horrendous. We've been driving through puddles,
puddles like lakes.
yes.
Sorry,
yeah, I was like, puddles make it sound quite
We've
wussy.
been driving through
Give us
oceans
credit
to
where
get here.
credit's due.
So I declare this podcast starts now.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah.
We're fighting.
It's happening.
Let's do
Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Welcome.
It's
Yeah,
good to be
really-
here
yeah.
again.
I know. That's great.
Yeah. It's almost surreal that it's actually rolling.
I don't know what to do now. Now that we're here, it's like I've forgotten how to podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Sarah, would you like to give us a 30-second elevator pitch into who you are?
Sarah
Into who I
Galbraith
am.
in 30 seconds, everybody. It's going to be good.
Okay.
I'll set the clock. I'm kidding.
I'm Sarah Galbraith. My middle name is Florence, which is a big part of, my brand, Sarah Florence.
Nice.
I am Kiwi with a dash of Indian. And I love mountains and oceans and snow and wild weather. I'm like, give me thunderstorms or like the hottest day ever. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Married to Brad. We've been married for 3.5 years.
Nice.
And he is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Best person ever.
Shout out, Brad.
Shout out to Brad. And I have a puppy called Riley.
So good.
Oh.
He's very cute.
Who was potentially going to be here with us,
I know.
but we had a party pooper.
I'm sorry. I just can't.
Nah,
Oh, well.
fair enough.
Oh, well.
It's fine.
Maybe one day.
It's
To be honest, he'd probably pee on the floor anyway. So
Is he not potty trained yet?
he is sometimes. Like he's pretty good, but he's still 5 months old. So like if
Right.
you don't let him out all the time,
Okay.
it's risky.
And what breed again?
Cavoodle.
Cavoodle.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like such a noob when it comes to everything dog related. I got no idea what kind of training is required for like
A
the
lot.
idea of like, hey, let's get a puppy is like the greatest idea of the world. But like the actual follow through, I got no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you train? I don't know. How do you train a puppy? What do you do?
We have used YouTube a lot
Yeah,
and
okay,
just
nice.
talked to people. Like our parents have both had heaps of dogs, so
Oh,
they've
okay,
been
that
really
helps.
helpful. But yeah, we didn't really know a whole lot.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
we've both grown up with dogs, but
Okay.
Yeah.
there's a lot of training that
Oh,
is
yeah.
involved. But Riley's
Really?
actually really good.
Okay.
The only thing, I mean, with the potty training, he's getting there, but he just jumps up on people because he's so happy to see them, which
Yeah.
is cool if you love dogs, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the next thing we need to work on.
Yeah. That's nice.
Helping him to like chill out a little bit.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's the
just
case
like-
with most dogs.
Yeah,
It
he's
takes
like,
a
"It's
wee
my best
while
friend."
to chill them out, and that, they love to jump up
Yeah,
a lot.
It'd
Yeah.
probably be me if I was a dog. It'd just be like running around and like
I think so.
yeah,
Just
I can see it.
being an absolute nuisance to everybody. I mean, hey, you're my best friend.
So apart from being a dog whisperer, Sarah, what else do you lend your time to?
So I have a photography and videography business, and
Cool.
I shoot mainly weddings, but I also do a little bit of events, and I'm starting to do some other work. Like I've got some Tier Fun videos coming up soon, which will be fun.
Awesome.
And just kind of, random little jobs. Like I've shot some things for like gyms and clothing companies, and it's fun.
Cool.
Epic.
Yeah.
Where did your fascination?
Fascination.
It's fascination, darling. Where did your fascination with cameras, photography, and I guess creativity begin? Like, where did that stem from for you?
I feel like I was just always into it. Like
Mm.
I remember when my dad first got this tiny little point and shoot, it was probably like 4 megapixels or something.
Yeah.
Like it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
And we
The
just took
Nokia.
photos of everything, like millions of plants and like
So
the dog. And
Yeah.
then one day my mum was sick. Like I think she just had like a migraine or something. And my sister and I cleaned up the lounge and we were like, oh, we want to show her the photos, but but she wasn't feeling well. So we took photos of everything. And mum was going through and she was like, man, that teapot looks so cool. Like you should be a photographer. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, it does look cool,
Yeah.
Mum. Thanks.
And I was like, yes, like, little 8-year-old me was like,
Yeah.
I will be a photographer.
Wow.
That's cool.
And then, we just started, like, me and my sister used to make tons of music videos and, like,
Man.
horror movies and stuff when we were little. Like, it was
Yeah.
like R6. And, like,
Yes.
it was so funny. And we'd, like,
That's
recreate
awesome.
storybooks.
Yeah.
She was, like, I forced her to be the model.
Yeah,
But now she's actually a model. And I'm like, I made you.
that's crazy.
Yeah, we kind of did that growing up. And
Yeah.
now we've kind of continued on that journey.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like, I love hearing how creatives have kind of started at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
So hearing someone like, say, Elia, who
Mm.
started with his filmmaking with Lego, stop motion.
Yes,
and
so cool.
how these, what are now these, like, 9 to 5, well, not 9 to 5, but full-time professions.
Yeah.
Where they've kind of stemmed from at just like a playful kind of grassroots level.
Yeah.
So it's so cool to hear where
Yeah.
that's come from for you.
Yeah, it's been really fun because it kind of just happened over time and got bigger and bigger and bigger. It wasn't
Cool.
like it was just like an overnight thing, it was just kind of like we started off doing random things and then I went to YWAM, which is Youth with a Mission, and I was like, oh, well, let's just make a video of our trip, and then,
Cool.
it kind of, someone saw that and said, oh, can you make some videos of our cabinetry and
Yeah.
like
Oh.
class wall system, which is like those like whiteboards and things,
Oh, yeah.
for classrooms where they've got drawers and everything underneath.
Right.
So it was so random, but
Mm.
it just became, thing, and it just
Crazy.
grew and grew.
Started like getting jobs through it and
Yeah.
working with other people and kind of snowballed.
Yeah, even little things like shooting people's pre-balls. And then
Yeah.
I ended up doing the school ball, it just
Wow.
kind of went.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And were those like, were they kind of just, oh, I just enjoyed doing it, so I'll help you out? Or were they paid opportunities or?
Yeah, they were. And like those
Cool.
early ones, I think my friend literally gave me $20 to like take like
Yeah.
photos for an hour or
Yeah.
something because I was like 14 or 15.
Sick.
So at $20 was like, yo.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love hearing like how people, turned it from just that fun thing they used to
Yeah.
do into an actual like paid outlet
Yeah.
or profession.
Yeah.
Like, I think I remember my first paid design job, which was doing a logo for a DJ back in uni. And I think, like I got $150 for it or something.
Yeah.
But like, I spent a lot of time on that
Yeah,
logo.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I look back at it, I'm like, damn, I undercharged that.
Well,
But-
did you know the guy who made the Nike logo like got paid like $20 or $200 or something?
Oh
know?
my gosh.
It's
For a
wild day.
one-off, I bet it was like one-off project cost as well, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
oh gosh, who is this man?
I
Can we
know.
pull it up, Jamie.
Surely we could. That should be something
Track
we
him
do.
down.
Yeah.
That should definitely. We
Yeah.
should throw that on the list. That'd be
Mm.
fun. Interesting.
Really
Fun
interesting.
facts being dropped in there.
I hope he is doing something massive now and like really
Surely.
getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Surely. I'd hope so.
Absolutely.
I think it's really interesting as you were kind of talking around like your childhood and being involved with like a 4 megapixel camera and like
Mm.
shooting from there, the influence that your childhood can have on the outcome of your life. That is
Yeah.
crazy how much of an influence it's had on both you and your sister.
Yeah.
Like your sister now being a model, you being a photographer, and the trajectory of your lives. What kind of like, I guess, were the stepping stones for that, or what were some key moments in, I guess, your childhood that gave you the confidence or ability to be able to step out and do stuff like this?
I think a lot of it was encouragement. Like mum and dad
Mm.
just always encouraged us,
That's so cool.
and mum saying like, oh, that was really good. You should be a photographer. Just like kind of put like a little, I don't know, gem in there in my brain.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay. And I think it goes both ways. There are times when people can like say something and it stays with you, like a negative thing. And I think with that, it was so overwhelmingly positive that
Mm.
It's
I
like
would-
positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
it resonated
So-
with you as well, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it was
it really did.
positivity that kind of then resonated and it's then created what you are now.
Yeah, and I think I believed that I could do it because
Yeah,
of that. And
cool.
so when people kind of, people do the whole like, oh, creatives don't really make much money, there's not really opportunities.
Mm.
I was like, oh no, I'll figure out a way. Like even throughout school, I always I studied photography and art, and I was
Mm.
going to do fine arts at uni.
Wow.
And everyone said, like all my teachers were like, oh, if you want to, so I was going to do fine arts, and then I really felt that goal to saying I should do business and communications.
Wow.
And so I started walking towards that, and all my teachers said, nah, if you want to do this, you need to pursue it. You will never do it
Interesting.
unless you study it. And I thought, no, like I'm just like, I think, and it was from those comments
Yeah.
Like when I was 8, I held on to that and I was just like, no, I'm just going to do it. And so I just started the business alongside being at uni and almost kind of like I'm going to prove them wrong, like you can actually not study something and still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
It's so interesting. It's funny, like hearing different people's motivations for why they do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say your motivation is for doing what you do at the moment?
What do you?
I don't know.
Which
Just
thing?
in general. Just
Design?
Like design, work.
Design, I guess.
Man, motivation. It's such a funny question because I never would have thought I'd be doing what I do for work.
Yeah, neither.
Like for such a long period of time, like through high school and then coming into like your emerging adulthood phase, like seeing all these people specializing in, I'm going to go do, these sciences or medicines and stuff. And then I'm sitting here like, I honestly have no idea what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I want to go and do with my life on a professional level.
Yeah.
So like, thankfully I got to go to AUT and do creative technologies, which was such a broad spectrum creative degree because I loved technology. I loved creating things. Like I grew up in a very creative family. And I guess it was just, I find where I am today from just picking and putting together little parts of these things that I notice, I do enjoy this and I'm actually good at it. And it's not just what you think as well, it's what other people affirm you as well. I think that's something that I have tried to practice more, is listening more to people. And actually I don't know entirety what I have to offer, but I have such an amazing kind of community of people around me who can be like, Charlie, that's awesome. Or like, I really like how you did this, when I can be second guessing myself the whole time whilst doing it, thinking it's mediocre, and then actually having someone external affirm your work. Like it sounds like you had, like starting up with your photography. And I guess it's the people around you, I think, for me, more than anything, that really
help create and mold.
And almost like keeps that compass as well.
It's interesting. I had a chat with one of the boys the other day, and he was just like, I don't know. It was literally a really short chat, and he was feeling real down at the time and questioning different elements of his life. And I remember, I don't know, I just felt like a prompting to kind of like affirm and encourage him in just little areas. It was like literally the tiniest, like, I guess, superficial things that to most people you wouldn't say it. You wouldn't encourage this particular person with that because it would seem that like it would be natural for them to already know that, if that makes sense. Like you're like, I would have never have encouraged him in that way because I would have been like, it doesn't matter, like he, but actually there was like a massive insecurity there. And I'd stopped myself from encouraging him because I thought I didn't want to be weird, or I didn't want it to be weird. And then I didn't, and I said something, and it like really, really resonated with him, and it completely changed like a whole like area of his life that he was struggling with. And I had no idea, and it was literally like one sentence. And I was like, dang, actually encouragement and affirmation in our friend circles and our lives has a significant amount of impact. And trajectories. I
think there's so much power in words. And I think just one little thing, like you say, can completely change the trajectory of someone's life. And
so cool.
It can just speak something into it. Like I remember when I was in year 4, and one of my teachers were at prize giving, and all these people were walking across the stage, and one of my teachers said, that could be you in 2 years. And I was like, okay. And like it just, it was so specific. And I think it wasn't like flattery. I think there's, like there's a difference. But she was like, no, like you could do this, like you could work hard and you could do this. And it was, 2 years later. And it was like, it was amazing how just a tiny little comment like totally shaped everything.
I guess like just piggybacking off all of that, like I just know what it means to me to be encouraged or affirmed in the workplace, or have, like just someone tell me like I did a good job on a project, or man, feedback from clients and stuff, even if it's not necessarily entirely positive but just constructive. Someone who's willing to kind of take a bit of a fearless step and like speak into your life and say something that may be a bit of a blind spot to you, or something that you're insecure about or doubting, or
There
you go for it.
No, you go.
You go. No.
You go.
The stage is all yours.
Stop it, mate. I want to know what you had to bring.
I was just going to ask Sarah what that looks like for her
Yeah.
in your professional life with your, let's say, your photography. Have you found yourself kind of stemming into your career with any kind of lingering insecurities or self-doubt or?
Yeah, I think self-doubt is tricky. Like, because
Yeah.
I think on one hand, I was like, I know that I can do this.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you're like, is this sustainable? Should I be doing this? Because, you know, I've got degrees in business and communication, and they're very, like, you can have a very stable, normal job, you know?
Yeah.
But I was just like, no, actually, I feel that right now this is what I'm called to.
Yeah.
And it may change and it may shape into something else. But, like, at the moment, I know that this is what I should be doing. And I think I kind of ended up writing down reasons why, you know, and so I could kind of come back to that and go, no, like, this is who I am and this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And so when they do creep in, it's there and you can go back to that.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
such an important nugget, I think, that you just raised just there. Like the importance of knowing who you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's been a big thing for me recently. I actually also, so I do the photography 3 days a week, and then the other 3 days a week I work for a couple of different not-for-profits, like in the health sector,
Cool.
and they're government funded. So it's amazing, but very, very different work.
Yeah.
And it can be really tough. Like one of the projects is the Light Project. The other one is FGM education program, which is female genital mutilation. And then the Light Project is helping communities be equipped to navigate the new pornography landscape. So they're pretty like heavy things. You know, like we're going into
it's
schools and
huge.
we work with a lot of sexual violence orgs. And so hearing all of that, it can be a little bit depressing almost, just like hearing what's actually happening like in New Zealand and just down the road. Like it's not like sometimes we see stats from America and you're like, okay, like that's bad, but that's happening over there. And then we hear, you know, countless cops or nurses or social workers telling us what's happening just down the road, and it can be really hard. And
that is hard.
And over the last few weeks, I sort of had to take a step back and go, actually, no, who am I? I know that I'm called to this, and I'm going to go back and actually like look at like what is the narrative surrounding this, you know? And that really changed things.
Wow.
It was very, very cool.
Yeah. I've got to ask because there's such unique areas to be working in, what drew you to them?
I think the fact that they were like taboo and like people don't want to talk about them. And I've always been very passionate about relationships and marriage. And I think they both tie in very strongly to that. And also just women and like being empowered for the FGM side of things. And I also think, just these things need to be talked about, and they shouldn't be kind of hidden and left, you know, in the corner, because it's something that most people are struggling with, you know? And so, it's just something I've just seen it time and time again with friends and family, and it's really hard, and it can be really damaging, and it can completely change relationships. And so because the landscape has changed so quickly, it's like we don't want the kids growing up now to have to go through what kind of our generation's kind of gone through. I feel like our generation was a bit left in the dark because the generation before
around
us,
like porn and stuff?
Yes, because the generation before us didn't really have phones, so it was different. Like you could just
kind of the evolution of that industry, the digital evolution is just so exponential. The access, you know,
and it happened without being explained
or regulated.
So I think it's just like I just don't want kids to have to go through what people are now going through.
How early are kids or adolescents accessing pornography?
I mean,
in this day and age?
It's all like, on average, one in, I want to get this right now. I'm like trying to think. 1 in 4 kids will see it before the age of 12.
Wow.
So it's pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in New Zealand. That's so.
Wow.
And
then quarter of the population.
Yeah, and in New Zealand,
before
like
12.
they surveyed 14 to 17-year-olds, and 58% of the girls had seen it. And then like when you look at that compared to like the Aussie stats, our women's rates of viewing porn are quite high. So it's interesting. Yeah, and then
that's
obviously
really interesting.
most guys, like, and if you look at the stats from Australia, which are like which go up to the age of 25, it was 100% have been exposed, and most like 72% of that is accidental, you know, or like some mates like, hey, look at this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's really high, and people don't know how to like
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with that because on one side, it's natural to be aroused by it. But on the other side, they're like, oh, I don't like this. And I think back in the day, you know, a Playboy magazine was just like quite PC. I mean, as far as it goes now. And whereas now it's very, very different. So there's a lot more extreme things that they can find very quickly.
Yeah.
So, and they're also actively marketed to children. So that's the thing that gets me is the active child marketing. I'm like, that's not cool.
That's so crazy because I was talking to my flatmate the other night who works in a school, and we were discussing the whole bring your own device kind of what is it? I mean, time in history.
Yeah.
Like that now children are being encouraged, and almost the school are, you know, supplying these payment plans so families can have access to these devices for their children. And
the government handed them out in COVID.
Yeah, they did.
There you go.
Like
and
tons.
Just how, like exactly what you're saying, how easy it is to access these things as a child. Yeah. Yes, there's all of these locks and these you know, these ways of censoring your browsers and stuff like that. But I feel like there's always a way that like you can get through, or people get through them.
And even in that space, when you're saying that 100% of males under 25 are exposed to it and 72% of that is accidental, that's a huge rate. There's also a massive amount of accidental exposure.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I was a kid and there was a notice that came in our school. This was when I was in primary school. There was a notice that came out to all the parents, and it was that there were active drug dealers in our area of our primary school who had actually come onto school property and given out bags of lollies. And these lollies had been laced with drugs.
That's terrible.
And I remember my mum sitting me down when I was in primary school and telling me about this and explaining that to me and saying, do not accept anything from anyone that you don't know. And that, like, I don't know. I completely forgot about that until now. But like, you see this, I guess, a marketing tactic or a way of hooking young people and young people who, you know, have their brains aren't fully formed. They don't have great support networks necessarily around them.
And you don't want to tell someone, like if someone hands you lollies and you're like, oh, this might be dodgy, you can tell someone. But if you see porn, you're like, oh, I don't want to tell anyone, you know?
Because
and it can be so hard. Like I just feel for kids because like if you just don't know what to do with that information, you know, like as an adult, if you view porn, you've likely had like sexual relations in real life, so you can kind of compare it. You have critical thinking, you know, and as
your
child,
brain's developed.
Exactly. So it's completely different.
But
as a kid, when you're like, wait, is this right? You know, like, and we're seeing a lot of sexual violence. Well, it's not even sexual. It's like kids like doing stuff that they actually have no idea is wrong. So it's actually they're both victims.
Well,
it's not like they're a perpetrator.
Speaking into the content or speaking over the content, right? And providing moderation or anything like that.
Censorship.
I was first exposed to it in year 7 and purely by within a friend group, someone having it on their phone in a situation of, oh, come check this out sort of a thing.
Yeah, and that's so common.
So what would that be like the accidental exposure?
Yeah.
Right. So then from that moment, totally what you said, you don't really want to talk to anyone about it.
No.
Everyone within these social circles, the whole dialogue is, you know, it's just what it is. Everyone's watching it. It's okay. It's good.
And no one says it's okay to actually not want to watch it. So what we do is we just open up the conversation. It's not like saying don't do this or do this. It's actually like, let's just think, how did you feel when you saw that? Is this something that you want to keep watching? Were you grossed out? Like, were you aroused? Did you like it? You know, and just kind of get kids thinking. And like, because there's a huge amount of like racism and sexism and violence in porn, it's like, okay, how does this sit with your cultural values or what you think about women and how you want to treat women? And
those
so
are
it just
great questions.
It's just critical thinking because that's the main thing. Because the reality is these days you will be exposed. You know, like it's pretty much if you have a phone,
it's on billboards.
Yeah, like I mean that's the thing.
What you were saying around the Playboy magazine, how like 50 years ago that was what was, you know, considered super scandalous. And like that content is now on our billboards, literally outside this building. You know,
literally.
like on the street, just up that road.
And they were untouched as
everywhere.
well. Like now girls have had surgeries and they're photoshopped. And whereas back in the day, people look quite normal you know, as well. So it's just everything like beauty
The
standards.
psychological.
It's this.
So it's just
such
about
an
thinking about
entanglement of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the boys in our group, he's a psychologist, and he was saying that, the effects that it has on the brain, the pitting that it causes in decision making, and even like, you know, shortcutting your circuits of like giving as instant gratification, and it ruins your reward system. And there's just this whole entanglement that is so like actually really not natural.
That's so interesting.
And from that perspective, I distinctly remember him saying that as we were kind of all having this conversation. And yeah, for him, that was like one of his big personal deciders, and what helped him really pivot was understanding the consequences that it has long term.
Yeah.
And the addiction levels are like compared to cocaine.
Yeah. Well, no, it's stronger.
Is it stronger than cocaine? Yeah,
from what I've heard.
Wow.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
And you imagine that with the plasticity of a young mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So think about these neural pathways that are being created, and these these neural affirmations that you're like, this is good, this makes me feel good, this is okay. Imagine that.
And that's why it's so confusing. And that's why, like if you were, say, 20 and deciding to watch it, you can kind of go, it's a decision. But if you're like 7, you know, like it's very,
100%.
very different. So
it's sad that it's like ruining a good thing.
Yeah.
Something that's supposed to be normal and human. And
definitely.
Like,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it like completely makes it like depraved and something that it's not supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's what makes me so passionate about it, because I'm like, sex is so, you can't talk about marriage and relationships without it, you know, and then you can't talk about sex now without porn, you know, it all links in together. And so I'm like, I want people to have amazing marriages, amazing sex, you know, and not like have to feel like there's all this other stuff involved with it, you know?
Yeah.
For you, what was, I guess, you've explained how passionate you are about marriages and relationships. Where did that come from? Like, what was the igniting factor?
I think it had a lot to do with my parents. Like they're amazing. They've been married for 32 years.
Wow.
So cool. Yeah, they're so cool. And like just seeing their marriage, like growing up was really, really cool. And I could just see how in love they were and how much fun they had.
That's cool.
And mum worked for Focus on the Family.
Cool.
And so she was like really involved with marriage stuff and parenting and like how to, you know, raise great kids and all that sort of stuff. And my dad was a cop. So he was hearing, you know, the opposite side of the spectrum. So like growing up, we heard a lot of horror stories, you know?
Yeah. And
it just broke my heart hearing what some people were going through, because for years I kind of I didn't realize what was actually going on. And I was just like, man, I just don't want people to have to go through that. And I totally believe that, I mean, if you've been in a situation like that, you can 100% grow from that and do amazing things. But if you haven't had to go through that, you can do like, you don't have to deal with that baggage, you know?
There's not a whole lot of barriers for you to break through.
Yeah, totally.
To move forward, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just in general, can you imagine if our marriages were healthier? Like how many people would have positive relationships and be able to, you know, like there were so many kids at school who just couldn't concentrate because they were having really hard things to deal with at home. And then they didn't really get great educations, you know? And so it kind of stems into everything, and like crime, if, you know, people like move around houses and there's poverty. And I think there's like a lot of things that can be improved if our marriages and relationships are healthy.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. It's so interesting. So interesting hearing all these topics and subjects and seeing how they all intertwine.
Yeah, because I think if you like know you're loved and you're valued, like it just changes things, you know?
It really does.
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I, we got married at the beginning of the year, and Sarah was our wedding photographer. So if you've seen my wedding photos, it was Sarah who took them, and she did a phenomenal job, and it was so good to work with you, or like for you to work with us on that day.
It was an amazing day.
It was pretty fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
From a third party. From a groomsman.
It was incredible. And I think like, I don't know, when I think for Katie and I, we really valued having yourself part of that day and also carrying the heart that you carry for marriages, for relationships, and championing that and encouraging that and promoting it, because it's like, you know, you've actually come on board at the beginning, at the ground floor and at ground level, and already like initially as part of like your package or what you offer is, you know, tickets to a conference to, you know, work on marriages and to build into that, and it's like what you offer any of your clients, and that for us is, it speaks volumes. And I just wanted to
spectacular.
Thanks. Wanted to say thank you to, on behalf, I guess, of all the couples that you've shot, like to the investment that you make in us and in marriages, and the way that you do through your work that's not even necessarily, you know, directly related to the not-for-profit space and you know, the social justice side, but actually the rest of it as well. It's still doing a whole lot, and so it's real cool.
Wow, thank you so much. Like, it's amazing. I don't even know what to say.
No, but
wow.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to say it.
Thank you. It's so cool because I often don't get much feedback from clients. You know, like I kind of send them their photos and they're like, "Oh, these are great, thanks," and then I like never hear from them again.
And how does that make you feel?
Well, I know that, like, you know, they're always like, "Oh, thank you so much," and then you see them post and people are like, "Oh, these are beautiful, like you guys look amazing," and then they also refer people on. So I'm like, okay, like I know that
got a
they're
referral.
happy. But sometimes it's like, wait, do they like them? Do they hate me now? Like, did I ruin their wedding photos?
Yeah,
it's a big thing.
Yeah,
it's a big thing. Yeah,
there are so many different elements like of a wedding day as well. Like it's not just the shooting; it's how you come across as a person. It's how you direct. It's like there's a lot. So yeah. It's cool.
What drew you towards shooting weddings? Like, where did that whole thing begin?
I think I only recently realized that I'm like a true romantic, like in every sense of the word. Like I just froth love.
Yes.
And so I was just like, it would just be amazing to be part of these incredible days. And I also love Disney and princesses. Like Sarah means princess. So I'm like the fairy tale wedding, you know, like it's just the dream.
That's
so
cool.
good.
Yeah.
So you must just, through every single wedding, you're just like, oh, fill in my tank.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Like when people tell me, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm like boring you with the details. And I'm like, no, tell me about the dress.
I want to know it all.
What does the lace mean to you?
I want a 5-page essay.
Yeah, everything, every detail.
Yeah, so I love
cool.
it.
That's really cool, because I guess like if you have that level of interest and I don't know, just heart for it, you are going to be so much more like in tune with the couple and on the day, and really like genuinely care. Because I think photographers, and specifically wedding photographers, they do an amazing job, you know, and you can tell that they love, like, it's a very niched sort of profession. And I see a lot of spectacular wedding photographers, and they're, you know, super sociable and charismatic and lovely on the day. But I think like to take it to that next level and like be so, you know, to love, like you say, romance and love all the aspects of love and relationships and healthy ones, like just kind of, I mean, I don't want to bag other wedding photographers, but here's Sarah.
No.
But that's really cool, because I believe that would genuinely set you apart. And hearing Cam's like feedback session,
I nearly cried, not gonna lie.
like it does, and it's cool to hear a creator that has such a strong heart for what they do.
Yeah, 100%, and it shows through in your work as well. Because when you, I don't know, when you see your work on like most of the weddings that I've looked at, there's the joy that's captured in it, and the moments that are captured, and right down even to like the color grading of the photos and stuff like that. Like it's just, I don't know. It's great.
What is your most memorable wedding you've shot?
Oh,
what's the first one that popped in your head when I said that?
That is really hard.
Yeah, I did think yours straight away.
Yes,
and then lots of memorable things have come out of it too. So it's been great.
Yeah,
and I also the other one that popped into my head was getting to go to Florida to shoot Nathan and Shelby's wedding. That was incredible for me. Like, to get the opportunity, because I shot one wedding in the UK a few years ago, and then to shoot in Florida, it was amazing. And in 2020, like the borders closed like a couple of weeks after I got back.
Oh my god!
So they were able to actually have their wedding and have
That's
no
cool.
restrictions, and their day was so much fun. And again, like because I knew them beforehand, it was quite cool because there was just like that friendship there already.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
I'd also been quite sick for the year beforehand. And so I did this amazing course 2 weeks before their wedding. And before that, I was like, I just couldn't really function as a person. And so then I was able to do this course and I got miraculous healing. And then I went to their wedding and I shot for like 14 hours, and then we danced for 2 hours, and then we went out spearfishing with the boys. And then we got in at like 4 a.m. and I slept for a couple hours and then got up and edited the photos, and I was like, fine.
Wow.
And I'd spent like, I think on average, I'd slept like 14 hours a night the year before. Like some days I was sleeping 20 hours a day. And so to go from that to like having energy and being able to function. And
that's a monumental pivot.
Yeah, it was and that wedding, from that wedding, a lot of things stemmed from that. So like his brother, so the groom Nathan, his brother Aaron, and his wife Ellie are now some of our closest friends because we spent that week together. We've changed life groups, we've changed churches. Brad actually now works with him. So like our entire life was kind of shaped by this one wedding, which kind of pivoted everything. And even like Katie knew, Cam's wife Katie knew Shelby, and they were just like so.
Well, we met Nate and Shelby down in Tauranga at her parents' house on July 4th.
That's cool.
How funny is that? So because Katie's mum is from Florida as well.
Yes.
And so they bumped into Nate and Shelby. I think they were being shown through on behalf of Nate's parents, maybe shown through a house or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
And then they met David through that, which is my father-in-law. Yeah. And then he is just the most warm and welcoming dude, and was like, "Oh, you guys are from Florida. Do you want to come back and come out?" And so they did, and they came literally to my parents-in-law house.
Yeah,
and then
so cool.
They all just met through there, and now like Shelby goes hiking with my mum-in-law like, all the time.
Because that connection, it must be so strong. Like imagine coming over to marry someone, and like leaving your whole family and everything behind. That immigration process would be so difficult. So to have someone who's like a mother figure is
they both
so
kind of share
cool.
that, because Shelby's from Florida and so is Susan, and they both kind of carry the same story with that. They left their families to move here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So hold up. Tell us about this whole year prior with your sickness and sleeping up to 20 hours a day. Like this sounds like
let's not wash over that.
Yeah, this sounds really serious. Like what happened?
So on Waitangi Day 2019, it was a long time ago now. We went wakeboarding. It was a beautiful day, having a great day on the water, and then I just fell, and it wasn't like a bad fall. Like you would have seen it and been like, oh yeah, just get back up. And I kind of fell and I was in the water and I was like, whoa, that was a big one. Like I was like, and I like just lay in the water for ages. And then I was like, okay, stop being a worse, I'm such a 1, like on the Enneagram. Get up. And I wakeboarded back to the beach and I was like, man, like everything was coming at me at different speeds. Like the trees were like, woo. Like it was kind of like a movie. Like it was weird. And all the colors were weird. And like colors weren't normal. And I was like, this is random. But anyway, I went and like sat down on the beach and I was like, man, I don't feel well. Anyway, we actually drove to a friend's house that night, had dinner, and I was like, I feel so weird. But he's an optometrist and he was like, oh, well, like we'll check your eyes, and my eyes were fine. He was like, oh, well, you're not concussed because like your eyes are kind of functioning normally. Right. And so we went to bed and then I slept like 14, 15 hours. And the next day my grandma called me and she was a nurse and she was like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like she said I was just like talking like this and like just everything was like super monotone and I wasn't making sense. She said all my sentences were like all messed up and slurred and I wasn't answering her. And she was like, she was 84 at the time. She was like, I'm coming to take you to the doctor. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'll make an appointment and go to like our family doctor. She was like, no, I'm coming now. And then, oh no, sorry,
Grandma
actually.
Coming to the save.
Yeah, I just remembered. I was like, no. And then I called our family doctor. And then I cried on the phone to the receptionist because they didn't have an appointment for like 2 hours. And I was like, no, I need one now. And then I was like, why am I crying? This is super weird. So then I called grandma back and I was like, please pick me up, because she only lived like a kilometer away.
Damn.
And so, this little 84-year-old woman is like like helping me like walk into the doctors, and I was like, this should be the other way around.
Yeah.
And turns out I had a concussion, and at first we thought, okay, cool, I'll have a headache for a few days, and like a week passed and I was like getting worse.
Wow.
And then we realized it was a lot more severe than what we first thought. And we just had no idea. There's very limited knowledge, apart from in probably the rugby community, about, and boxing, about what concussions are. And so I just had no idea what I should or shouldn't be doing. Wow. And so I would do things, and being, I'm a very kind of competitive, highly driven person. And so I was like, oh, I've got a wedding. So 3 weeks later, I'd literally slept 20 hours a day for like 3 weeks. Wow. Yeah. And I went and shot this wedding, and I had someone to help me out, and I was on like every med, like it was pretty bad, but it got through. And then 2 days later, I was sitting having dinner and I couldn't lift up the fork anymore. It got too heavy, and I was like, whoa. And then I stopped being able to talk, and it was super weird. And Brad got really annoyed at me. He was like, come on, just like, he thought I was just being really rude and not replying to him. Right.
Wow.
But I was so
terrifying.
They thought I'd actually had a stroke at first. So
yeah,
he called my parents, and then they called the ambulance, and it was quite scary because, like I said, my dad was a cop. Like, he's very calm under pressure. Like, and I've never seen him like that. Like, I actually started crying because that was the only thing I could really do, and like just seeing him kind of that concern for me, because usually he's like, cool, we're going to do this and this, and and he was like, we need an ambulance right now. And I was just like lying there, like I knew what was going on. And I was like, just move your hand. Just move your hand. Open your mouth. It's not that hard. And I couldn't do anything. Wow, and then Brad said, like, blink, and blink if we should go to the hospital. I was like, yes. Like trying to like say something, and I just blinked. And yeah, so it was quite scary. And so then I had post-concussion syndrome. And concussions are weird. Like, the accident doesn't really like it line up with the healing. So sometimes like I've had friends who have had like 10 and they're fine. But it's super random. Right. And I guess it might be the part of the brain that gets hurt or whatever, or swollen. And it took me a year to get better. And I had a miraculous healing. So for that whole year, like, I couldn't function. I couldn't talk properly. I couldn't go to church, couldn't go to life group. Like, I would push through and I would prep and sleep all week and then shoot a wedding. And then I'd be out for like another 2 weeks. Wow. Like, it was bad.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was pretty hectic. And because I had pre-existing anxiety, depression, and severe anger issues, like, it made it like quite bad, to say the least. Because and so because I had those pre-existing things, people they thought it was kind of linked to that, and they didn't realize that it was actually like also the concussion. So it was just kind of this. It was not a good time. 2019 was very, very dark.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so it was crazy. But then I heard about this course, and I'd been to like so many counselors, and like ACC provided so many, and
shout out
I just shout out to ACC, and I just didn't see any results really. Wasn't getting better. And then a friend, it was kind of crazy how it all worked out. This girl worked for Exposure, which is a company that I'd always dreamed of working for since I was like 8.
So cool.
And for some reason they called me and they were like, can you help cast for this ad? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was totally not okay. Like, I should not have gone. I was so sick. And anyway, we went up north and casted for this ad. And it was an ACC ad, ironically.
Wow.
And I know. And so the whole time we were talking about...
I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. And the whole time we were talking about this course that her mum and her uncle had just done, who both had concussions. And they got healed within 2 weeks. And I was like, tell me everything. So we drove up to Kerry, and we literally talked the entire trip there and back. And she told me everything. And I was like, okay, I need to do this. And then I got home, and then I found out how much it costs. And I was like, can't do this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I mean, we've got our savings, but I hadn't been working for the year. Like, I mean, I'd done weddings, but like then I had to outsource the editing, and it was pretty bad. And then I prayed, and I was like, God, like, what do I do? And he was like, just trust me. So I paid the deposit, and 21 minutes later, after the deposit went out, I got a call from Exposure, and they said, hey, the director saw you when you came in this morning, and he actually wondered if you wanted to be in the ad as talent. Like, and I was like, whoa. And they said it paid double to the dollar what the course cost. To the dollar. And then God said in that moment, I'm I'm going to give you a double portion, not just in the finance, but in the healing. And at the time, obviously the finance was immediate. Like I that was physical, like, but I kind of didn't know what to say. And I was like, I'm not going to tell anyone that second part because I didn't believe it because I'd been concussed for so long, well, post-concussion syndrome. And then I also had all these other things, like I'd heard the course healed anxiety and depression, but I didn't believe I could actually be healed from them. Like I was just like, this is too big. I've been trying for 7 years and I haven't seen any improvements. It's like kind of getting worse. So I was like, I didn't want to say that. And then anyway, the course rolled around and like it literally healed everything. Like it was the most miraculous thing. And I'm still, every month, I'm better than I was the month before. And it's been 1.5 years.
Damn.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's all about just being transformed by the renewing of your mind, basically. It's just rewriting those pathways and going, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. And like that's
our
in
brains
its simplest
are so
form.
Crazy,
yeah, our brains are wild. Like I literally was healed from the concussion in like 3 days from like most things, and then within 2 weeks I was, like I said, at the wedding, completely healed and actually healthier than I was before. Wow. And then I've worked on the anxiety, the depression, the anger issues, and even like little things like I had Raynaud's syndrome, which is where you lose like feeling in your hands. Right. And the doctor was like, oh, it's incurable, like you have it forever. And I did switches on that and I got healed. And we spent a month in the South Island last year and in the middle of winter, and it didn't happen once,
Dang, because normally cold triggers it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I would still get it in summer. I'd get it like walking to uni. Like,
dang.
Yeah.
So
there were all these things that,
yeah.
like, I could literally list like 40 things that got healed. Like, it was crazy. And we've since seen about 8 friends do the course and get healed as well.
Wow.
So it's unbelievable. Like, it's like the biggest life hack ever.
Right. What's the name of this course?
It's called The Switch by Empower Therapies.
Okay.
Yeah. It used to be called the Lightning Process. So some people may have heard of that as well. So it's so straightforward. Like it's 3 days of teaching on the brain and the body and the connections there. And then you learn this one little process and like you can use it for so many different things, like allergies, mental illness, addictions, even like intolerances, autoimmune diseases. Like my sister's actually just done it as well. So it's amazing. So like she only just did it like a week ago. So it's been really cool seeing the progress already. Yeah. Like she's celiac and she just like ate a burger and was fine. But we're going to see like the process, like as in a couple of months time, she's going to go get a blood test. But they've seen autoimmune diseases get healed before, which I think is wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It sounds crazy. I want to go check it out.
Yeah. It literally
sounds so interesting.
It's like the biggest life hack. And I'm like, why do people not know about
Where does
this?
it like? What does it come? What is it based on? Like, what is it? Where does it come from? Like,
just this guy in the UK like started it, and it's just the science of the links between the brain and the body, and how much power our brains have over us. Like this is one of my favorite stories. So they did this thing. I think it was at Victoria or Otago University. I can't remember. It was a survey, and so they got a whole lot of students, and with half the students, they gave them vodka. With the other half, they gave them cordial. And they were like, let's just record what happens tonight. So one group got super drunk. They were slurring their words, throwing up, all the drunk things. And then the other group just, had a normal night. They were a bit disappointed that they didn't get the vodka.
Gosh, you know what happens next.
And then the next morning, they recorded the results. People were hungover and had memory loss, blah, 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 everything. The other group, just normal. And then they said, actually, you guys all had cordial. Nobody got alcohol. And it was just the power of their brain thinking that they were getting drunker. Like, and if your brain can do that, like,
dang,
that is fascinating.
So fascinating. Have you ever like had a time where like you make yourself sick or like something you're like, that,
Yeah, it's like when maybe you start to feel something and your brain just goes, oh no, I must be sick. And it's kind of like that little
snowball.
Snowball where you go down.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's crazy. So I love that story so much because like you can't dispute it. It was an actual study.
It's an actual study that took place.
And an actual miracles by the sound of it that took place, which is amazing. And it's
continuing to happen. Like it was crazy that he said double portion because it's more than that. It's so much more because it wasn't just the healing for me. Like I've had more than a double portion, just literally my own life. And then you look at Brad's life and how it's changed his life. And then you look at like my mum and my sister and just everyone who now has done the course because of this. Like one of my friends just did it this week for chronic fatigue. Or is doing it, sorry. So she came in yesterday. So, you know, like it'll be amazing to see the results from that. And it's so much bigger than like it was just an amazing kind of way that, I don't know, to see God's promises like walked out like right in front of us. Yeah.
Dang.
That's so cool.
And it's not a
Mind-blowing
Christian
stuff.
course either. Like it's
Interesting.
totally based on science. But it's not faith-based whatsoever.
Wow.
But it lines up with, because she gets clients from, you know, all sorts of faith
Yeah, I can
backgrounds.
imagine.
Yeah, and it like links to everyone's faith. It's really interesting because it's just on the brain and what the brain's capable of.
Fascinating.
Yeah. We're actually going to be talking about it on Tuesday on the breakfast show, 8:15 if you want to.
Wow,
If you wanna
huge.
tune in.
8:15 on the breakfast show.
Yeah.
Damn.
There you go.
TV one.
Loves it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
cool.
gonna be exciting. Is that you and
It's really
Me and
cool.
Mel, who runs the Switch.
Cool.
So yeah, it should be
Awesome.
cool.
incredible?
That is
Far out.
so cool.
I'm kind of gobsmacked, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
Yeah.
real sucker punch of a story.
it is.
I think it's something that everyone should do, whether you're sick or not. Like,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going good, you'd just be great. Like athletes use it, you know, or people like want to use it to study or whatever. Like I was like, okay, I've never run more than a kilometer. And 5 weeks after the Switch, after a year of being in bed, I ran round the bays and I'd never run before. And I was able to finish it. And then at the end of the year, we did a half marathon. Like, so you can use it
I didn't
for
do that.
anything.
I hate running.
I'll do it.
Well, I hated it so much because I'm a sprinter. So I'm
Yeah.
like, give me a 100, 200, nail it. But long distance, like
No.
I was like, I need to learn this. And so I just did switches. And
Switch.
I was able to run the whole way. Yeah.
Just picturing
Sorry,
us
bro.
doing
I'm just doing some switches.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a second.
It's like a joke
Bravo
now in the
6
family.
going
They're like,
dark.
do you need to go do a switch? Actually, yes.
That's crazy. Oh, I want to go check this out. That sounds
We
amazing.
should do it, bro. That'd be
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
You definitely should.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay.
Fun and games.
We'll check in next podcast we do with you,
Yeah.
and we'll see how we're doing on
Do
our
your
switches.
research. Yeah.
He loves it. Wow.
That's
Damn.
crazy.
Yeah.
Outrageous. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
really cool and so
Mm.
insightful and interesting, and so many new topics on
Yeah,
the Jeffrey
I-
podcast,
I know. We've covered a lot.
which is great and just keeps me so.
Fires me up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks so much for coming on.
No
It's
worries.
been a really, really cool chat.
Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me.
Yeah.
Oh,
No
our
worries at all.
pleasure.
It's been a hoot. Well, I don't know. We almost forgot.
Oh.
We always ask this question at the end of our podcasts.
Oh,
is,
yes.
Oh, we do.
What is your dream for the Jeffrey community?
Yes. I think my dream for the Jeffrey community would be to actually go to the creator to be creative, you know? And I think there's something so powerful of partnering with God because he created everything. And I think we can have these ideas on our own, which could be incredible. But when God adds to it, like it's that much better. And I think,
It's like that double portion, right?
yeah, literally. And I think
Yeah,
if
it's
you
cool.
go and you actually lay down things at his feet and just surrender it, it doesn't mean like that's not going to happen, but it's like I'm actually just going to surrender it and go, okay, God, where do you want to take this? What like? And I found there were so many times in my life where I was like, God, like at weddings, I always pray, can you please help me get the moments where people are crying or like the emotional moments, and like I feel like there are totally things that I've been able to capture because of what he's shown me, and it wasn't me at all. And so I'm like, if people can partner with God, like you can just do so much more than you could ever dream. And I think that is just the most amazing thing. And sometimes it doesn't look like what you might have thought it was going to look like. Like what I'm doing now is like I kind of had these kind of baseline things that I wanted, kind of categories. But what I'm actually doing is completely different. But I feel like it's just so God.
That's so
And so
cool.
I think, like some of the coolest things in the world, like brands and products, have been created by partnering with God. And so it'd be like my dream for the community to just kind of really lean into that and learn more, because God knows you intimately and knows how you work and what you value, and so I think he really uses that and
That's so cool.
and can bless you through that. So
That's epic.
yeah.
Damn.
That's an amazing message for not just Jeffrey or the community, but just every individual out there. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
I love that.
Damn.
Cool.
What a flippin' note to end
Thank you,
on.
Sarah.
Sarah,
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Just
We made
grabs
it.
the mic.
just, I I know, we got this across the line.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Beauty.
I'm not
I
going to
love how it's
lie,
empty.
I've been drinking an empty glass for the last like 30 minutes.
That's so
it's
funny.
a creature comfort, right? You're just
It
like,
is.
Yeah.
It's been empty and I've been sipping
surely
it.
there's a little bit more.
I know.